think we're more, in my eyes, we're a married couple who I had inspiration about 20 years ago when poems came out, or when I started writing more for me and not really putting it anywhere. And nothing happened. I wrote books of poetry, made them up for me, nothing else, nobody else. I then used them for a little bit of a charity, raising money for homeless charities and the like, but nothing really, I would say, as a book.
Yeah.
Then a friend of ours, which is the other book, which we're not obviously bringing into this, but there was another person who was the dean of a college, wrote a book, and I thought the book was good, and he was talking about publishing. I then got online and talked to self-publishers about other books that I've written, outside of the Christian books that we've written, and they produced those. And I thought, okay, good idea. And poetry was then produced by them, but it wasn't really out there.
Yeah.
And that was the problem. It wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
This book sat on a shelf on Amazon or anywhere else and just sat there. This book needs to be out in the marketplace, like all the books we've written. They all need to be out there for people to read, to be inspired by. Hopefully people they read some of the poetry, they like the poetry.
Yeah.
Some of it is basic, some of it is very sort of what I call the normal, mundane, everyday poetry. Some of it, yes, is a bit more inspiration from somewhere.
Yeah.
Whether it's spiritually or otherwise, I don't know. But it is a total culmination, I suppose, of 20 years of work. I was a lowly mechanic or lowly warehouseman, not doing a lot of work. I worked with people like the Full Gospel Business Fellowship 20 years ago, and yes, I was involved. I was part of a local fellowship, but I wasn't doing much.
Yeah.
And then obviously when I moved up here, I've got involved with one of the local Bible colleges. I'm now the administrator. This book is obviously, all our books are sold before the college, not for us. We don't make it. We don't want any of the finance is not for us. That never was the plan. It wasn't to make money. It was to be used for the fullness of the gospel, putting it out there for people to study. I think people should be studying. If they can't afford it, hopefully these will pay you for it. This book, Etty, both of them, and all the other books that we've written, and there are a number in the process, and a number of languages, which, thanks to good news, that is, I didn't come up with this idea. And lately the books I'm writing, I just don't know where they're coming from. They are inspirational or otherwise poetry that I've come up with over the last number of years. There is another book following it, but I haven't written enough of it yet to be able to bring out another one to follow it. Maybe there may be a second one, but I don't know yet. That's up to inspiration from wherever at the moment. If I get it. Obviously my wife's also written hers with Etty, but obviously you can explain how Etty worked.
I didn't really plan to write a book at all. I mean, my husband was doing all the writing and I was just really the person checking it and proofreading it. But someone saying, I don't know, I carry in my bag for about 10-15 years since my father passed away. Some notes I've made, obviously, after he passed away, about Etty, who's named Etty the Black Lamb because he was born at Ettrick Bridge, which is a small town in Selkirkshire in Scotland. And somehow I was laying in bed sort of praying, and somehow the Holy Spirit just downloaded the story about, and I moved my way, instead of my family being in England, I moved it to Scotland, and there were relatives in Scotland I never knew. And based on that, I formed the first part of Etty, which is the sort of a lamb, and seeing life in Scotland through the eyes of a lamb, and sort of what would a Christian life been like if I'd been brought up in Scotland. And the book actually takes it to when I was born. There is a second part, which I haven't written yet, but Etty is basically the lamb that I had. I had a musical lamb, and you hold up its tail and it plays a tune. That lamb is now in the hands of my minister's granddaughter. I gave it to her as I kind of grown out of it. And it was based on that musical lamb. We then had a black lamb, which is Etty, and a surrogate. The idea of having a surrogate lamb, the whole idea of having like the Dolly the sheep, the lamb idea, was just a good, the threat of that. So there's three kinds of Etty in existence, and that book takes you through the kind of life in Etty Bridge through the eyes of the lamb, who everybody looked at because of the spiritual voice that she had through her bleat. So the bleat and the sound of the lamb, and to return everybody with something spiritual, there's something more to life than this. So it's kind of the Christian life told through the lamb, and looking at church life and how you've got the kind of the Christian who look at me, I go to church, I carry a Bible, but they're not really believers, and you've got the other type of Christian who are trying to get the gospel out. That's a kind of conflict between those two as well, but through the animals and the people in Scotland. So it's quite a kind of a complex book, really. I think really it's to get people identifying with the people in the story and saying, well, yes, that's me, and then it's almost trying to work out where they are within life. So, in other words, that's identifying and be able to see there is another life of where they are.
Yeah, I think Etty is definitely that. Yeah, it's the inspiration that people take from it. That's me. I can see my life in there.
Yeah.
Poetry, I think, is more reading that gives people encouragement and says, yes, those, that poem or one poem in there might be the one thing they need to read at that moment.
Yeah.
Or that might be something. I'm feeling sort of not so good today, but they read that and go, oh, actually, there is life there, or it's poems for life from the heart. Yeah, it's okay. Yes, it's from me to them, but it's for life. In other words, it gives you that inspiration. You're inspired to carry on, and maybe even they're inspired to do things themselves.
Yeah.
The whole story. I started 20 years ago writing, and 20 years later, I'm here. And this is. It happens. It wasn't planned.
Yeah.
None of this was planned. I didn't plan to be a Christian writer. Facebook. And the idea was there as you said, can your books go out on the thing, and I thought, well, that's one way of getting books out there. Maybe it's an idea. Let's give it a go for our late friend's book initially.
Yeah.
And our book and my book, and then obviously it's progressed and snowballed from there, because we've now got obviously my book, Alison's book, my late friend's book,
and
the others that are in the progress